Hey folks, I'm Ilya from TWRAPS, and in this video I'll show you how we wrap our Rivian R1S. I'll be doing it alone, and this is cover paint protection film that I'll be installing, developed with a proprietary cut pattern that I developed myself using our own Rivian. Please notice that this is a Gen 2 Rivian, but as far as the wrap is concerned, the only difference is at the mirrors, and we'll provide cutouts for both the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. So before I begin, I made sure that the car is clean. I just went through a car wash, and let me show you how we start. So you receive a box like this. Open it up, and let's take the rolled up film. Notice that I'm using two tables that I got from Home Depot. They each measure 30 or 32 inches by 96 inches, and I just stack them together so I can have a clean environment to unroll the film and spray it before I transfer it onto the Rivian. So this is made out of 4 sheets, and each sheet has various components on it, so they're pre-cut. The first one is the hood. Now, this might look pretty intimidating, but there is a good reason for this to be the first one. And the reason is that once I install the hood, I'll pop it open and let it dry before I do the edges, and then I can work on the rest of the car. Alternatively, if that looks too intimidating for you, you can skip this for now and just roll the second sheet on top, which would be a bunch of smaller components. And one more thing, in this case, the wrap I'm installing is called Magic Flame Dark Blue. It's 8mm thick paint protection film. Now, before I begin with the actual process, let me mention about the tools. This is my tool cart. You will not need everything from here, so I'll just go through the stuff that I will actually need. So I have an electric sprayer with soapy water, and this is the main thing I'll be using. I have another sprayer with clean water, which I'll use to clean the edges from the soap, or to use it to tack the PPF, whatever I need. I will be using a debadging tool because unfortunately for this wrap you'll need to remove the badges, and you'll have to get new ones or reapply double-sided tape on your existing ones. I'll also use glue gun to clean up after I debadge. I will be using a utility knife most likely, and I will be using a rubber squeegee, a plastic squeegee, and this edging tool. Microfiber is always useful. I have diabetic needles in case I end up with some bubbles that I need to clean up, and I don't think, and heat gun. And beyond that, I don't think we'll need anything else for this installation. So because I'll be doing the hood first, I'll remove the badge. I plan on removing the badges as I go instead of just doing all at once right now. I personally find it a little bit more entertaining this way. Otherwise it just gets boring just debadging for an hour. So I'll start by removing the hood badge, and let me show you how that's done. The tools I will be using for that job is the debadging tool. You can use a fishing line, pretty much does the same thing. I'll use this, the edge tool. I'll have a microfiber, the glue gun, and a heat gun. That's all you need and I'll actually tape it around just in case, so I don't scratch it. So I'll apply a little bit of masking tape around so we don't scratch it. So let's do it. Full disclaimer here, I've watched a YouTube video of how to remove this badge, but I've never done it myself, so bear with me if I struggle. It's my first time too. As I said, I'll tape around the badge just in case I don't want to scratch the paint. Alright, the next thing we want to do is to heat it. So it's important to know that all of these badges are held by something like a double-sided stickers, essentially by glue. So it's essential to heat them. Okay, so that tool is not extremely helpful. Let me see if I can get this inside. That's a definite no. I'll grab another tool. Oh, I got one edge. Okay, so the trick is to get under an edge. Now I'll jam it and just heat again. And by the way, if you're terrified of debadging, we can make you a cutout that will not require you to remove these kinds of badges. The ones on the quarter panels and the ones on the one on the hood. So just shoot us an email, we can do this, not a problem. The PPF will go very close to the badge, so it will almost be invisible that you didn't debadge. But you still need to debadge those doors and the liftgate. And the reason is that these badges seem to be installed by hand on the Rivian factory. And I've seen many cases of inconsistent placement. Let's see if we can just remove the rest of it like this. There you go. Notice that there are these plastic pins here, which would prevent the debadging tool from going all the way. And now I have to somehow strip the old glue, which is actually, for now at least, easier than I thought it would be. I'm just peeling it off with my fingers, and I will use the glue gun in the end, but I'll try to get as much as possible before applying glue gun. Maybe a little bit of heat will help here. Definitely. Okay, the heat makes this a lot easier. And again, if you don't want to change your badges, you can just clean up the badge. And I suppose something like VHB, I don't know, you have to research what kind of double-sided tape would work, but you can definitely apply new tape, trim it, and return the badge. In my case, I'll be using the dark out badges that Abstract Ocean has. They're beautiful, but I'll show you as we make progress with the installation. And now I'll use the glue gun to remove any residue left. There you go. For the next part, I'll clean the hood. Even though the car just had a car wash, I'll still spray and clean with my rubber squeegee, and I will inspect to make sure that there is nothing dirty or something that, you know, will show under the paint protection film. Like here, for example, I saw something that the car wash missed. And the other thing I highly recommend is, before you begin the installation of the hood panel, lower the vehicle height to its lowest setting. Unless you're really tall, it makes reaching here much easier. So essentially I just sprayed with soapy water, and now I'll just squeegee it, and as I do that, I'll be inspecting for anything that I don't want to see under the paint protection film. If you have a lot of issues on your paint, you may also want to consider clay barring these surfaces. Clay bar is very cheap, and you can check on YouTube how it's done. It's really easy. In my case, my paint is relatively good actually, so I will not be clay barring. But just saying that, you know, this is paint, so if there are imperfections that you want to not have under the film, you can use the clay bar. Now, you may think that you're done and you can install the PPF, but you're not. Remember, this PPF will wrap around the edges, which means that we need to clean those edges too, otherwise it won't stick. So we'll pop that hood open, spray clean microfiber, and start wiping the edges. Look at that, film doesn't stick on that. I'll go one more time, just to be on the safe side of things. And now I think we're in a good state to install that film. Before I do that, I'll spray the hood. Again, this is soapy water that I'm spraying. And now let me show you how to prepare and transfer this sheet onto the hood. So the first thing you want to do is to spray the sheet on top. Then I'll start peeling off. For when I'm to touch the sticky side of paint protection film, I like to wear latex gloves. You can wear them, you can skip them, totally up to you. Now be careful around these pressure relief cuts. If you pull too strong around them, you may rip the film. So when you're near one of those, just go slowly. What we want to achieve here is to have soapy water on the entire back surface of this film. And by the way, this is one of the hardest pieces to install. Again, if you're not comfortable to start with this, just skip that sheet for now, go on the second one. And we're doing that until the two sides meet somewhere in the middle. All right, we are ready to transfer. And before I do, I'll respray the car. Now, for this huge piece, if you have a helper, it's gonna make your life easier. If not, here is how you do it. The key is to keep the film clean. Basically, try not to touch anything that may make it dirty. If you do though, don't worry too much, as long as you don't drop it on the floor. You can use clean water, spray the adhesive side where the dirt is, and it will come off. Okay, now I will remove some of these bubbles, so to say, by hand. I just want the film to be as flat as possible before I begin the squeegeeing. Now we need to align it, and we'll align by these top corners. So I'll be moving the whole film. I don't want to create pressure. There is plenty of pressure already. So I'll be moving the whole film. Don't just move the corner like this. Move the whole piece so that it looks relatively well positioned. And I want to align this corner so that when I fold these, they fold around the corner. The other thing I want to do is to use my clean water, and I'll spray a little bit just here to get some tack to make the film stick better. Oh, look at that, and immediately we have some dirt. Let me show you. So look, this is what dirt under the PPF looks like. I hope it's visible on camera, and I'll show you how to clean it. Basically with clean water. I'll squeegee some more, not everything, just have a little bit of a stickiness to the film, because now I'll go on the opposite side and I want to align the edge there as well. And now I'm on the opposite side, I'll do the same, aligning, testing how it would look when I fold. I want this to be covered, and now squeegee. Now that both sides are aligned, it's time to start removing all of that water very diligently. For the time being, notice that I'm focusing on these 2/3 of the hood, and I'll leave this part for after. Keep rechecking your corners, because the film does have tendency to slide and reposition before it cures, so keep checking. If you need to make alignments, you can. Also, if the film goes up so that, you know, the PPF is sticking a little bit more, as long as it's a little bit so that you're not making a gap on the opposite side, it's fine. You can always trim a little excess with the utility knife. So we have these, they're called fingers. We'll have these throughout the install. I'll show you how to deal with them. For now, they don't bother me. What I'm trying to do is to make sure that there aren't going to be too many bubbles around here. I mean, hopefully zero, but given the size of this, there might be something that I'll need to remove afterwards. All right, now to the last third. Now, find your pressure relief cuts. You'll find one here on the edge and one on each side of the oval of the headlights. And aim to have that pressure relief cut positioned pretty much in the same fashion that we did it on the other edges. So at this point, you may need to grab the film and pull a little bit. And then squeegee to test the pressure, like this. If you have too much pressure, you might need to pull a little bit further. As you pull, notice as I pull how the pressure is reduced. Now I see that these are a little bit off, so I'll move the film a little bit to the left. So I'm pulling this way, down and towards the passenger, so that I have my pressure relief cuts aligned. And again, don't worry too much about these. The hood is a difficult piece, and if the pressure relief cuts are not at the exact spots where you need them, this is not the end of the world. I'll show you how to handle it. But basically you just slice a little bit with a utility knife and you're good. Notice again that for the time being, I'm not trying to make everything stick. This is unrealistic at this part of the installation process. I'm just trying to make progress. Basically have more and more of the film fully aligned and all of the water removed. Alright, here's where it gets tricky. Once the majority of the installation is done and we want to fix these fingers. Now, before I continue, I will review everything that I've done so far, and if I see any water deposits, I will remove them. For this part, you may want to use the plastic squeegee on the felt side. Up to you, see how the water reacts, if you're able to squeegee it out or not. If you're able, great. If not, use the rubber squeegee. But if you have to use the rubber squeegee at this stage, you may need to respray so it doesn't drag too much. So just go over everything that you've done so far. Make sure that you haven't trapped water, because once we start closing the edges, it will become much harder to take water out. We'll have to use the diabetic needle. Alright, so I'll start with this. Now, the first thing I'll see is if by just pushing it, it lays down. It may not stick, but does it lay down without wrinkling? Like, for instance, this one, if I keep pushing, I see that it's going to wrinkle. And if that's the case, I'll have to reopen a little bit and just distribute that pressure. I will spray clean water at this point, so that we start getting some tackiness in this installation. As you see, I'm essentially opening the film, spraying clean water to get that soap out, and re-squeegeeing. And as you see, once you get the soap out, even though the film is wet, it starts sticking. Now make sure you're not leaving any bubbles behind. Tiny fingers at the very edge, they are not an issue to fix later. So we want to get rid of the big ones. Obviously, if you can get rid of the small ones, that's great. But just saying, don't panic over the little ones like these. They're like less than half an inch long. Let's do the same here. Now I'm using the rubber squeegee again because I made the film wet on top, so the rubber squeegee can glide easily. So see, there was pressure here, it wanted to wrinkle, so just lift it up and distribute it on a bigger surface area. Okay, these are really small fingers. At this point, I don't care about them. I will just finish these when the film dries up. If you absolutely want to finish them right now, one benefit of that, by the way, is that if you are installing clear PPF or satin PPF, it's better to do as much as possible now, otherwise you risk that the cover will be a little bit different where those fingers were. So if you're doing that, you can use a heat gun. That will help you tackle this right now. So notice I'm pulling the film to eliminate that pressure. I just need to have it stick a little bit better. And by the way, I'm not pulling very hard, so if you're concerned whether you can do this yourself, don't be. It's a minor pull. By the way, check for water here where the batch used to be. This will be very easy to tackle even later, but still, we can do better right now. And again, don't worry too much on the hood if these pressure relief cuts don't align the way you want them to. When I was developing this pattern, every time I install this, they go someplace else because of the nature of stretching this and how big this is. Now first I'll check these fingers here, because if they want to create a wrinkle, I need to pull here. So I don't want to seal this before I'm sure that this part is okay. Now I'm just squeegeeing this area to make sure that I'm not missing any bubbles. Alright, we've reduced these fingers quite a bit. Now, the next thing I'll do is I'll pop the front hood open. I'll squeegee one more time on the edges just to push that water out, and I'll leave it to dry. Now I'll just go with a squeegee on the edges, make sure there is no water. And now let's just let it dry for a bit, a few hours, and I'll continue with other panels, but I will let it dry and I'll keep revisiting. Like in between every panel you can come squeegee again, you know, just check that everything is looking good as the film is drying up. And once it's completely dry, fixing these final fingers should be relatively easy. Alright, for the next part we have the bumper, the 3 pieces of the liftgate, the charge port door, there are 2 pieces for it just in case, the front fenders, and these I'll show you later maybe. These are if you want to do a seamless wrap of your mirrors and you have a mirror wrap tool, you can use this. We designed this to fit perfectly on the mirror wrap tool, but this is really hard to do, and we will offer a 2-piece version of the mirror, so there will be a seam line, but much easier to install. So I'll begin with the fenders, and before I do that I have to show you something. Check your fenders here in this area and see if you see paint protection film, clear paint protection film. My Rivian has it. It came like that from the factory. I think all of them do, but if you have it, you have to remove it. So just peel off and pull. That's it. And then check if there is any glue residue. If there is, use glue gun. In my case it came out pretty clean, so I'm good to go. So next up, I want to clean the fender, make sure there is nothing dirty on it. I'll use soapy water and rubber squeegee. Then let's make sure that the edges are clean where that film will wrap around. Open the door so that you can get in here. And just for the off chance that I introduced some lint by cleaning the edges, I'll just go one more time. Then spray. Now judge visually which one is which. Just imagine how that transfers onto the vehicle. This is the passenger side. I'm doing the passenger side right now. Spray on top. Peel off and spray the adhesive side. And let's transfer. Now just put it here as quickly as you can so you don't pick up any dirt. And I'll do this just to make it stay, so so that I can reposition my camera and show you how I'll be aligning this. So the alignment of the fender pieces begins here. You want this to align with this corner and this to align with the other corner. I will use a little bit of clean water to make it stick. And notice again, I'm moving the entire piece of film when I'm positioning, not just this part, because I don't want to create unnecessary pressure. Now what I like to do is to test, basically fold it. It's not gonna stick, but just to get an idea of what the fold will look like. Also have in mind that we can make tiny corrections to this after the film has cured, because you can always peel off a little bit, stretch it a little bit and fold it nicely if necessary. Now that this part is done, the next place I want to align is here. So I will, because I squeeze it here a little bit and I need the film to move around, I'll respray with soapy water. And now here comes the interesting part. Notice again that this is a pattern that we developed. It's not something you can find anywhere else. And we developed this pattern in a way that you do not need to remove the fender flares or whatever these trims are called. Instead, we'll be using the yellow edge tool to tuck in. And the way you want to align this is either to the edge or overlap the edge by a little bit. If you overlap the edge a little bit, you tuck it in very nicely, very easily with the yellow edge tool later. Now let's eliminate that pressure in here. Okay, let's get this started. And for the time being, I'm doing 2/3, about this much, and that last part I'll leave for after. Now I'm getting some pressure here. I will show you how to fix that in a minute. Also notice that there is a pressure relief cut here at the bottom, so you want this pressure relief cut to not show the paint underneath. So push this a little bit out so that when you fold it around, you don't see any gap in the film. And needless to say, right now there will be these points here where the film will not stick because it's still so wet. That's okay. We'll handle this a little bit later. Now, this pressure I might need to lift and redo. If it's too dry at the time you do this, if you have to do this, just respray. The other thing you may want to do is to pop the front door open so the film doesn't stick on it. Okay, I think I'm done with this part. I'll respray it and re-squeeze it just in case before I finish the last third. I'm doing this to remove any leftover bubbles, because during the initial phase of squeezing, you don't apply too much pressure because you don't want the film to wiggle around too much. Now that the film is properly positioned, I'm more confident to apply pressure, which takes care of some bubbles that I might have missed otherwise. Alright, now to the last part, this third. I will first peel off so that I can position. And I will use a little bit of clean water. I'll start here. And what I want here is for this tiny pressure relief cut to align with this edge. And I want to go past the edge a little bit so that we reach the edge of the bumper. Because once this dries up, we want to tuck it in without any disassembly though. and we'll tuck it in using the yellow edge tool again. But to have material to tuck in, you need to surpass the edge and reach the next one. So let's see. Then for this part, same thing, clean water to make it stick. And this part, notice it's a little bit shorter, and that's intentional. The reason is that you want to pull to remove some of that pressure. Now we'll align here this pressure relief cut with the edge. I'll actually go a little bit past that edge. Squeegee one more time, make sure you're not leaving any water behind. And now I want to reduce the fingers where I can. And the way we do that is that we'll open this again and spray with clean water. Alright, at this point, these are really small fingers that I shouldn't have issues handling later. So let me do the other side and I'll move on to the driver's side fender. So here I'll open up the film a little bit so that I can spray clean water. And by the way, remember to spray clean water at where the edges are sticking out. This is to clean the soap from them so that you can easily fold them when the film dries up. Don't try to tuck it in now, no point in that. It will, I mean, if it tucks in somewhere, that's fine, but don't waste your time with that now. It will be very easy once it dries up. Little trick, you can hold here and pull a little bit just to give yourself a little space. All right, I think that side is done. Alright, so the next piece would be the charge port, and I want to do the charge port before I do the bumper, because once I apply the film, I want to pop it open and leave it to dry that way. Otherwise, the bumper PPF would overlap with the charger, so we need to keep it open. Let's clean it. Okay, so we're ready to install this. Notice that this rounded corner side is this side, to give you an idea how to orient this film. And you want to position this so that none of the pressure relief cuts would fall onto the visible side. So I'll just squeegee a little bit and I will check the pressure relief cuts. Because it's too wiggly, I will spray a little bit of clean water to make it stay. So notice that I'm basically tacking this one corner at a time. So I checked here that it's properly positioned, then here, then check here, make sure that this is okay, and now pop it open. Recheck your corners. Make sure that everything will fall around nicely and you won't have any visible paint. I'm spraying some clean water so I can tack it properly on the edges, get rid of most of these fingers. Now just squeegee it out. And now at this point, I'll just leave this to dry and continue with the bumper. Now make sure to clean inside here and here. I put my squeegee inside a microfiber. I'll spray the microfiber, and I'll just use that to clean that inner area where the PPF will fold. Also clean the inner edges of where the charge port is, basically the edges that get exposed once the charge port is open. Let's clean the bottom here. And I'll go one more time. The bumper tends to be one of the dirtiest parts of the car, so I don't want to take any chances. Now just spray, and let's prepare the paint protection film. Now the first thing that would be tricky if you're doing this alone is to position it somewhat accurately without dropping it on the ground. So I'll show you how to do that. And then we'll actually begin the installation on the driver's side. This is important because there will be a tiny stretch on the passenger side in order to handle these curves there. Alright, now that the film is prepared, let me transfer it. So again, if you have a helper, that's a lot easier. Now I'm just squeegeeing by hand, taking off some of that water so that the film doesn't slip and fall. There you go. Now, because I'll actually begin work on the driver's side, I'll pull a little bit here. Don't go towards the end. I'll squeeze a little bit. We'll peel off when we get to that part. I'll do the same here, just so that the film stays put, so I can work on the driver's side. All right. So I will begin my alignment here. Notice that this will fold around everywhere, but in my experiments designing this pattern, I found it very difficult to tuck in the yellow H2 here. So here we'll try to not overlap on the bottom edge. Let's use a little bit of tack, which is just clean water, and let's position it so that we go all the way to the edge without overlapping. If you do end up with a small overlap, you can still give it a shot with the yellow edge tool. If it doesn't work, you can just very carefully trim that part. Okay, now that this is done, I'll use a little bit of tack here, and I want to make sure that this part is properly aligned, as well as the other part. Basically, make sure that once it folds, that pressure relief cut will not be here on the visible side. Notice I'm using clean water at this point just to make it stick, so that we can continue the installation on the other side. Alright, I think this is good enough for now. Now for the next part, the middle, because I squeeged it here, I need to peel off, and I will need to respray. This is with the soapy water. But what you want is for the film to move freely, like this, so that you can position it and then squeeze it. So I'll line the top corners, check where the pressure relief cut is, and align it so that it's not visible once you fold. That would require me to tuck the film a little bit here under the light bar, which is very easy. There is a gap, so you can very easily tuck it in. It keeps slipping down, so I'll spray a little bit of clean water. Now, check everywhere, make sure that it will fold around everywhere. You know, basically make sure that your alignment is good now when you can still easily make changes. Notice we have a small cutout here for the camera, so you want to make sure that once you fold, you're not going to be overlapping the camera. Now I'll spray a little bit of clean water on the bottom. Just take your time, remove that water, as any bubble that you miss now will take you a little bit longer to fix later. I'll spray a little bit of clean water here to clean up that soap, because it tends to lift up on this edge. Notice that some of that water is seeping down, so remember to take it out. Alright, on to the last part. So first I'll peel this off. I'll respray with soapy water so that I can move it around and position it. And I'll notice it's a little bit shorter, and that's on purpose, because there is some pressure here which we want to take care of. Because we still haven't finalized the fenders, we'll have to overlap these two pieces a little bit so that they can fold later. So spray clean water here and just pull. Now you don't want to overlap too much, otherwise you'll need to trim it and it's dangerous. Let's tack it here as well. Alright, so let's make sure that we're going all the way to the edge here, and let's see what happens. Okay, I would say that's too much of an overlap, so I'll return a little bit. See, on this side I need to pull down a little bit. Some clean water here. Now I'm making sure that this reaches all the way to the plastic trim. Now this finger is gonna cause me troubles later, so I'll peel off a little bit and take care of it right now. And I'll peel off a little bit of this just so I can see my alignment here. And good that I did that, because I see that here I need to pull a little bit that way. Otherwise, we'll have a shiny edge. Now let's take care of these bubbles. Now this part is a bit trickier. To handle this part though, we'll wait for the film to dry up. I'll leave a few inches on each side like this, so that I have the ability to grab and pull a little bit to adjust it when the film is dry. And for this part we'll need a heat gun. Now make sure that the film still looks good everywhere around the headlights. Take care of bubbles now. And notice I'm squeeging here, not so much to make it stick after the edge, but to remove that water that's on the edge. Because once I leave it, it might seep down and it will be harder to remove. I don't actually want to stick that right now. I want to wait for this to dry up and then I'll finish this. Check your alignments here. Make sure that everything here is still looking good. Now the film tends to pull up in this area, so I'll use a little bit of tack to prevent that. I'll just pull down and align by the pressure relief cut here at this corner. Alright, that's it with the bumper. Now we just wait for this to dry up. So we have the liftgate left and the mirrors and one extra charge port. But because my garage is not too big, I cannot do the liftgate unless I turn the car around. I don't want to be doing that now. So I'll just leave this sheet and I will get back to it later. But now I'll move on to the next sheet. a few notes on this one. We have the rear quarter panel, the front door, the rear door, and mirrors. Now, notice that there will be a letter P or D over there, letter P. I don't know if it's visible on camera. That would indicate passenger or driver side for these big pieces. So the next thing I want to install is actually the rear door. And my logic is the following. To do the front door, I need to close the front door, but I'm still waiting for these fenders to dry up before I can fold the edges and safely close the door. So I don't want to be touching anything there. And for the quarter panel, I would need to have the back door open. But before I open it, I can just install this and then this. And then once we fold the edges on the fender, we can do the front door. We'll of course have to clean it first. Now, in my experience, dirt tends to stick here between that window trim and the actual panel. So use the yellow edge tool, put it into a microfiber, spray, and then tuck this in just to make sure that, look at that. We don't want that dirt. And also don't forget to clean the edges. Now I'll go with the squeegee one more time, just in case. Spray and apply the piece. So let's first take out some of that pressure that built up like this. And now I want to align. I'll start the alignment here. The film will tuck in, so you have to give it space. I hope this is visible, but I'm literally pushing it under that weather strip or whatever this trim, plastic trim. So I want to make sure this have enough material to go under. I got a little bit of dirt here, so I'll just peel off and rub it off with clean water. So use your squeegee to see where the film would go under that plastic trim, like this. Make sure that it folds around. Make sure that the pressure relief cuts will not come out to be on the visible side. Now let's align that. I'll spray a little bit more because the film started sticking already. Have in mind I'm doing this on a rather hot day, so things tend to cure relatively fast when it's hot. Now, for the next part, hold on, actually, I need to be able to reposition this. And it's not, if it's not moving, it means it's already curing, so open up, respray. Okay, so for the next part, I want to make sure that this will fold around that door handle to conceal the paint. Then I'll squeegee from top to bottom. And again, if it overlaps here a little bit, that's perfectly fine. We'll tuck it in very easily with the yellow edge tool once it dries up though. I want to wash away that soap so I can see what's going on here. It's normal to have some fingers around the door handle. That's okay as long as they're not excessive. These look fine. Once the film dries up, it will be very easy to take care of them. Right now I don't want to spray water here because it will go down and it may create bubbles. So I'll just let it dry and I'll keep rechecking it throughout the installation. Check if there are newly developed bubbles, take care of them while I still can. The more you squeegee now, the better job you do now, the less you have to fix later. By the way, it's perfectly normal that the film is not sticking here right now. Once it dries up, it will stick. We'll use the yellow edge tool to tuck it in and give it a seamless look. Alright, the rear passenger door is done. Let's pop it open so that we can work on the quarter panel. And before I move on, I will clean these edges with clean water, which makes folding them later easier. Not that it's very difficult once it dries up, but still it would be a nicer, easier experience. So before I continue with the rear quarter panel, I need to remove this batch. It would be the same principle as that on the hood. We'll tape around it. Then I'll use a heat gun to warm it up. And then I'll try to pick up any edge, just enough so I can insert the debadging tool. Pretty much same as the hood. Yep. And we're good to proceed. So next up, let's clean this. And remember to clean where all the edge tucking will happen. Now, I'll have to take a small detour from my plant installation of the rear quarter panel. And the reason is that I barely have enough space to work there due to the rear door. And I wanted to move my Rivian a little bit forward, but it won't let me with the hood open. So I'll check if I can close the hood safely. I'll try to finish the edges of the hood now actually, because it's been a while since I did this. I might be able to finish this right now. Then move my Rivian a little bit and continue with the quarter. Okay, so let's see. This seems to be dry, and notice I'll mostly be using my fingers for the edge folding. I want to score this like this, and if I see fingers, I'll just try to fix them with my own fingers. Now for the edge, I'll use a little bit of heat gun so this can conform very nicely around the edge. And as I'm here, I'm seeing that the fender is also dry, so I will try to finish that as well. And for this part, you need the yellow edge tool, because there is a weather strip here and you want to tuck in the PPF under that weather strip. It helps a lot, by the way, the edges become really nice and clean if you warm them up with a heat gun first. On this curve, by the way, warm up all of this with a heat gun, and let me show you how you do it. We will press right at the curve and then go up and down. Look how beautiful it's turning out. And since I started doing edges, I figured like if they're dry, I'll do as much as I can so I can close the hood and don't bother with it later. So I'll just continue with the fender now. Again, press at the edge, then up and down. Now here we'll just tuck in with this tool, super easy, like this. And here it will probably look something like that. So I'll first try with just fingers. I'll pull a little bit here and let's see. Yeah, that worked great. Now let's start tucking this. If you see any small bubbles formed around here, just push them out with the plastic squeegee, the felt side, and then use again the yellow edge tool to tuck this in. There is absolutely no need to disassemble the fender flares. Now here some bubbles have formed during the drying, so I'm just pushing them out before I tuck in the edges. Now, because we're approaching this line here, I will peel off a little bit from the bumper so that I can finish this line. By the way, if you can't get that edge tool here, get it somewhere else where it would go in and then just move it. Now, let me show you how to handle this. So, first thing, I see that it's not perfectly positioned, probably it got pulled back, so I will peel off a little bit and then I'll pull to position it well. Let's see, I'll open from here to get rid of that air that got introduced. Maybe I'll have to reopen here. There you go. And you can see now how this is supposed to be. Maybe I'll even pull a little bit more to get a nice edge wrap. Before I continue, I will pop this thing open just like that, and maybe I'll jam it with the squeegee so that it stays open like this. And now use a heat gun and we just fold. There are a bunch of pressure relief cuts here to absorb the pressure that builds up these curves and folding, and I'll repeat the same on the bottom. And here I'll just use my finger to get this to lay down, and I'll finish it with the edge tool. We can unjam this and finish the top edge, which is super simple. Notice that you still need to separate this rubber kind of trim here, and I'm using the tool so that you can just fold around. And yeah, other than this edge here, which I'll finalize when I'm finalizing the bumper, I think this fender is done. Let's continue with the hood and then move on to the other fender. So for the hood, there are tiny fingers here, very easy to fix. Just push with your finger. If you see a small bubble on the edge, just pull out a little bit to get to it and then push that air or water out. And now again with the yellow edge tool, we'll take it in. There is this trim here which I'm pulling down to make an opening for the film to go in. Now notice that the last 4 or so inches of the end I'll leave for now, because I want to handle this edge, this corner first, and then I'll handle everything around it. So I see a little bit of paint here, and again, just like what I did with the fender, I'll open up a little bit, I'll stretch a little bit, clear the pressure, and now we can fold. Alright, perfect edge. I'll continue here. Alright, now I'll use the plastic squeegee on the felt side, and I'll very gently test which of these fingers are gonna disappear easy and which of them are gonna make trouble. So just go easy on them. And my initial aim is to clear the film, all these fingers, all the way to the edge, and then I'll do the edge folding. So I think this one is going to wrinkle, there's just too much pressure. So what I'll do is I'll open up a little to allow that pressure to get distributed on a larger surface. As you can see, there is nothing difficult about this, it just takes time and patience, that's all. And if you do end up with some small wrinkles, like here, just open back up and redo. I don't know if you can see that, but I have a little bubble here, and I was telling about this. If it happens, just crack it open. Done. All right, now that I've done I've cleared the film all the way to the edges, I will tuck it under the edges. Again, same technique. Really wrinkly, so to say. It's useful to use the heat gun because the heat relaxes the PPF and makes it more sticky. As you can see, the fact that my alignment didn't work out too great in terms of where the pressure relief cuts are is not a big deal. It folds just fine. And remember, you have to pull that rubber trim or whatever this is to make space. Now let's see where the emblem is. I'll just try to push the film down with a finger like this. It's actually working pretty well. I see that a lot of air is forming here, so let me show you how to handle this. One option is to use a utility knife. Just make a small slice so you can drain that air out, or if you have diabetes needle, you can use that. Yeah, it's not even water, it's air. And this is how you take care of bubbles overall, by the way. I prefer the diabetes needle approach because there is less risk for the paint. Now, I'll use my utility knife to make a small incision where these holes are, where the batch was anchored. And I don't want to remove the film, I just want to allow the new batch to set in. So I'm not touching the paint or anything, just making a hole in the film where there is already a hole. I think just about the only place left to fold those edges is here, so let me finish that as well. And just like that, I wasn't planning on doing that, but because I have to move the car a little bit, I'll be finishing the hood now. Now let me show you what the hood looks like. As you can see, perfect edging. I still have to finish the driver's side fender. I'll do it in a little bit, but because I'm really impatient on this one, I'll install my new emblems. So what I got is the Abstract Ocean Rivian emblems set. I got the dark ones. I think it's gonna look really cool once the wrap is done. I haven't installed these before. There is a QR code with installation instructions, but I suppose I'll figure it out on my own. Okay, CPR only R1S, so these will wait. This is the Rivian letters. Oh, the badging tool. Look at that. These are for the doors. Some more tools, awesome. And this is the one that I wanted. Alright, notice that one of these is like a circle and the other one is like a square. You have to match them properly. I'll just test. Yep. Look at that. They're beautiful. They're amazing. And you know, I personally know the guys at Abstract Ocean. They're really good folks. So if you want to get your Rivian emblems to be the dark ones, just shoot them an email. All right, that was it. That's beautiful. All right, I moved my Rivian forward so I have more space here. I'll continue with the edge wrapping in the front later. Now I want to install this before I do anything else. We've already cleaned it, so I'll just respray it. All right, so we will start by making sure that there are no huge bubbles here that are distorting the film. I'll just do like this so this doesn't sag down so much. And as you notice, this is shorter, again intentional, because we'll do a slight pull later. For the time being though, I will focus on this part here. I will align here at the top, and I want to very slightly go over this edge here. Just push the film up and you'll see how far it will go, and just slightly over the window so that we can tuck it in. Another way to tell if your positioning is okay in terms of height, at least, is the pressure relief cut here should match this edge. I'll spray a little bit of clean water here so the film doesn't sag down. Again, tuck it in here a little bit so that you have a very seamless wrap. And just like we did with the fenders, we will make sure that this fits here. It will overlap on the plastic trim a little bit. That's intentional. As you saw with the fenders, we can use the yellow edge tool to tuck it in and have a nice long-lasting wrap. Now squeegee about half of this, and then we'll move on to the back before we squeegee the other half. But we need some material to be able to stretch. Now here is what we'll do. We will peel this off, we'll spray with clean water, and we will pull. And what I want is that these pressure relief cuts will align at the edges so that when I fold the PPF, it would cover everything. Notice that the film will want to pull back, so you may need to do this multiple times. Just open, spray, and now let's pull again. And as I am pulling and holding it, I'm squeegeeing. Try to get as much water out from here as you possibly could. And this particular piece, the rear quarters, please do recheck them every now and then, because there is water here that's very difficult to get out, and it tends to seep down and make huge bubbles. Of course, these are fixable post-install as well, but it's much better to not have them in the first place. All right, now onto the bottom part, which follows pretty much the same principle. We'll open up, we'll spray the edge, and we'll pull. And I'm looking at my pressure relief cut here to match that edge. And the other thing I'm looking at is the bottom here to go all the way down. I don't want to leave a gap. So I'll actually start with this, and then I'll pull up here. And let's start removing that water. Oh, look at that, it worked on the first try. Okay, in that case, now I'll focus on just removing as much water as I can. I'll get a little clean water here for these edges. And again, these overlaps, they're okay. They're actually good. You want to have an overlap. You'll notice when installing the driver and the passenger side, it would look different most likely, because every time you install this, it stretches a little bit different. You position it a little bit different. So that would also look a little bit different, and that's okay. Tiny fingers in the end are okay. I'll try to improve these now, although I showed you what to do with fingers even once the film is completely cured. I see this sagged a little bit, so I'll respray here. I'm just testing now to make sure that I have enough film to wrap in there. I do. I'll still open it up and let it dry while it's open like this. But please be very thorough with the squeegeing on this one. Historically, when I've been working on that pattern, this is the panel where I would see most water that I missed. So just take your time, don't miss removing water. What I'll do now is that I'll respray it and I'll re-squeege it just to see if I'm missing any water. By respraying it, I'm trying not to get water here. As I said earlier, this is trickier area here as well because it will go here and drip down. Now I'm applying a lot of pressure here, and I don't know if you can hear that on the video, but it sounds like tiny firecrackers. You'll experience it for sure. This is water. If you hear that, know that you have more water to take care of. Look, big water deposit here. If it doesn't want to go out because we kind of sealed the edges with the clean water, you will need to reopen a little bit until it goes out. Now I prefer this to dry open, so I'll open this bottom edge. Alright, now I'll let this dry. As I said, please recheck it every 15-20 minutes to make sure that if water is accumulating somewhere, you still have a chance to push it out before it cures. Otherwise, you'll have to either slice the PPF a little bit to get it out or use a diabetic needle. Now, before I can continue with the front door, I need to finish this door so I can close it. So this door has dried up, and I'll start folding the edges. It's very simple. If you have issues, use the heat gun. I have some bubbles here. I'll just open the film a little bit, just harder to access because of the door handle. There you go. Again, remember, press at the edge. There is a pressure relief cut there, and then up and down. For the door handle, you definitely need a heat gun. Now, there'll be more work at the door handle. I'll show you close up a little bit later. I just want to get the bulk of it done right now, and I'll do the little details afterwards. Now let's have a beautiful wrap here. I'll heat up a little bit with the heat gun. And in here there is a weather strip under the plastic trim, so you will want to push the film under that weather strip. Naturally, the film wants to be on top of the weather strip, so I'm using the sharp end of the edge tool to kind of pull the weather strip up so I can tuck the film under. This is relatively easy, but takes a little bit of patience. It seems I positioned this film a little bit like 1 millimeter more to this side than I should have, and now I'm having a hard time getting this under the weather strip. So what I'll do is that I'll very gently trim about 1 millimeter, and I'll touch against the weather strip so I don't scratch my clear coat or paint. Now this. So for this we'll need to slightly open here. Now tuck in the squeegee in between this plastic trim on the bottom and the door so that you can tuck in the film. Now I got a wrinkle here, so I'll have to open up a little bit and fix it. Now, everything else is done here except fully completing the door handle. So for the door handle, this is a bit tricky to show on camera, but if you use the sharp side of this tool and poke around, you see that there is like a rubber enclosure inside. What you want is for the film to go under it wherever possible. So basically heat it up and use this to separate the rubber enclosure from the actual aluminum panel and tuck it in. And you'll be doing 4 doors. You will see that each time it fits differently. And the reason is that, as you can imagine, even the tiniest of differences in alignment would produce a different fit. So there is no universal rule here other than it's totally doable. It's just a tight spot. I would say that's the biggest issue. It's a tight spot because of the door handle itself. For here, I'll try with various tools to save myself a little bit of time. Alternatively, if you don't want to spend too much time on that, you can just slice off a little bit of that PPF, the part that's sticking out. I'll let it dry some more, and I will do some final tucking a little bit later when I close the door handles. I'll see if that helps me in any way. And if certain parts are refusing to stick, like right here, I just can't get the tool in, I might slide them off. Well, actually, I think I got it in. Now that the fender and the rear doors are done, I can do the front door and the mirror. Before I continue with the door though, I'll do the first part of the mirror. So the mirror consists of 2 parts. One is this and the other one is this. So I'll first do this part. It's really easy. I'll do this part and I'll let it dry so that I can finish the edges before I do the part over it. So let's clean it. Now this is the piece that I'm talking about. I'll spray a little bit of clean water here. I want to have less soap for this, and just put it there. And we'll start by aligning here. Let me see if I can show you somehow. All right, so I will align on the bottom edge and this edge here, and I'll squeegee. And if it's too wiggly like this, I'll need some clean water. I need this part to stick, and I'll show you why. Maybe more clean water is needed. All right, now it's sticking. And the reason I needed this to stick is this. Notice that it's shorter on purpose. The reason for that is that if we made it just the right size, you'll have a lot of pressure here that you cannot take care of. Or we'll have to make a pressure relief cut, which would, you know, look uglier. So what we did instead is to make this shorter, and we'll spray with clean water and we will pull it. I'll pull here until I reach this. And now a lot of that pressure that I told you about is immediately gone. Just like that. Again, pull on this side, not on this side. You don't want to overstretch this part. I mean, you can always trim it, but you generally don't want to overstretch it. Pull here on this side so that you eliminate the pressure on this curve. As simple as that. Now I'll let this dry as it is, and Once it's completely dry, then I will make the edges stick, and then we'll do the top part. And now I'll continue with the door. And by the way, the reason I did this before the door is that the water goes down due to gravity. And I don't want to be introducing more water to my door after I install it, because I want it to dry up. Obviously, before we install the PPF on the door, we need to remove these badges. Thankfully, we don't need to remove the mirror, because again, this is a pattern that we developed in-house using our own Rivian, and we made it to fit perfectly, so you don't need to remove that mirror. Just like we debadged the other places, we'll heat it with a heat gun. We'll use the debadging tool. And now cleanup time. Well, that debadging took about 10 minutes or so. Now I'll clean the door. Don't forget to clean the edges. And these here are a little bit harder to access, so I'll just put the edge tool inside and run it like this. Same here. And I'll go one more time, just in case. All right, we're ready to install. Let's spray it. I'll need to get this a little bit closer to me. All right, now let's do some proper alignment. I'll start here on the top, and I will make sure that around that mirror things are looking good, because we're working with some really tight tolerances around that mirror. So I'll squeegee here once I like it, and then I'll do this edge here. Check the door handle area. Make sure that that also looks good. I see that my film sagged a little bit here, so it won't have enough to wrap inside the door handle. Yeah, I can see it here too. So I have to reopen this and reposition. Well, that's unfortunate. It's a waste of time, but it happens. Maybe we can use a little bit of clean water to give it a better tack up here once we like our positioning. I see some dirt over here, so I'll have to open up the film and fix it. Let's spray again and squeegee again, just to make sure we're not missing any bubbles. I'll spray a little bit of clean water here to get a little bit better adhesion, because I see, because of the soapy water, it's not sticking, of course, but all that water drains here, and that might cause bubbles as it cures. Yeah, I can see them happening pretty much right away. All right, I'll keep monitoring this to remove water as it accumulates. You may even give it a little bit of a wipe to absorb some of that water. I'm doing this with the microfiber, by the way, so that as I push the water out, I catch it and absorb it, instead of the water just immediately re-entering. And that actually seems to do the trick. Pretty nice. Now before it cures, let's open the door. Let's tuck this in. We'll handle that part later. And just, we'll let it cure. We'll let it dry up before we can finalize this piece. So I took a little break, and before I continue installing more pieces, I'll go through my install, see what has cured, so that I can tuck in some edges, fold some edges, basically see how I can get this more done than it was before the break. All right, let's start with this. The mirror is, the bottom part of the mirror is pretty much done. Let me see if the door is dry enough. It seems to be dry, so I'll gently pick up the film here. I'm using a weeding tool, but you can use this, it's just might be more tricky, or tweezers. Okay, so this part definitely needs more drying. It's not sticking right away, so I'll just leave it. We can try to do these edges. And here, look, I made a small mistake in the positioning and the paint is showing. So if that happens to you, let me show you how to fix it. It's not difficult. So first thing is that I want to peel off a little, maybe like this, and then I'll pull. And because the film stretches, you can just pull and cross the edge. I have a bit of a bubble here. I can either peel the film, or in my case I prefer, because it's tricky to pick it up from here, I prefer to use the diabetes needle. So we'll just do this, and the bubble is gone. Now here the edge tool goes in easily, so just tuck it under. Let's see if I have, this edge is not looking perfect just yet, so I'll try to pop the door open, see if I get better access. Yep, okay. You can try that too. There you go. Another bubble here. This will happen as much as you try to squeeze everything, you'll miss something. Don't panic. They're so easy to take care of. Now edge folding. For that I'll use a heat gun. And remember, press at the edge and go up and down. And if we look on the inside, we'll notice that I made a few wrinkles. Nothing to panic about. Just peel off and reapply. By the way, notice that your technique for this should be that you start on the outer side with your finger and then you press down as you glide over the edge. This way you're not trapping any air on the edge. Let me show you the alternative. If I just do this, now there is air here, and that's not gonna be pretty. So start here and press as you go around the edge. Alright, for the rest of this door, I will wait for this to completely dry up, and then I'll finish the door handle and this upper strip. But it's the same principle as the rear door. As I said, there is a weather strip inside, you just need to go under it, that's all. Now let's tackle the quarter panel. I'll first score the edge, make sure there are no bubbles, and then fold. And where I have strong curves like this and maybe here, I'll use a little bit of heat gun. Oh, actually I just saw that I have some bubbles here. Let me take care of those. So in here, the film stuck on the bottom while I haven't removed all the air or water from above it, so that creates a wrinkle. So what I need to do is to gently open this like this and then re-squeegee. I have a couple of tiny bubbles here, one bigger one here, and now I believe I can tuck it in. And now I can finish this edge here. So I'm seeing again some bubbles here and there. This is a more curvy area, so it's not extremely surprising. So what I'll try to do is to just open the film here, careful so you don't rip it. There you go. By the way, another approach, if it's too difficult to tuck in, because in some places the fitment is actually so good that it is a little bit difficult to tuck it in. Another approach is to just slice that part off. Once that film cures, it's not gonna peel off on its own. And let me try it. So I'm slicing off against the plastic here, not the paint. Or I think the film was just sticking on the plastic too much to allow me to insert the edge tool. So alternatively, you can just slice off a small piece, so just so you can insert the edge tool, but either way works. There you go. Now, before I tackle the back, I want to take care of this. This is air mostly, so we'll use the needle. Yeah, air. And now I'll make opening for these plastic pins that are on the logo, on the emblem. And I'll get my abstract ocean. These are the dark out emblems, and I'll insert it. Notice again that the shapes are different, so circle, rectangle, let's say. Perfect. Now I'll do this side of the edges and then I'll finish the back. These are really easy once it's dry. Just score it and use the plastic squeegee on the felt side. Run it and you're done. All right, now comes the more interesting part. Let's tackle this. First thing I want to do is score my edges, just like that with my finger. I want to have a very clear edge. Then opportunistically I'll just try scoring deeper and deeper, see how far I can go without tools. Don't go here just yet. I'll just work around that light. All right, we'll hit this with the heat gun in a little bit. Now I'll do this and this, and the way we do these corners is with a heat gun, and I will squeegee right at the corner like this. I see the film is not fully dry here. I'll hit it with the heat gun, see if that helps. Right. Okay, let's do this one. Oh, more water. Okay, I might be doing this a little bit too soon. And if that's the case, maybe I will leave that part for now. See if I can fix these. No, okay. Well, as I said, what I'm doing now is opportunistic, meaning that I'll go check, see what I can do. I won't be spending too much time on it if I can't do it. Let's see if we'll fare any better with these. But for these, I'll have to open the liftgate. So I'll pin it off so that opening the liftgate doesn't rip it. And that aged poorly. I didn't see that, sorry. Okay, well, I'll have to fix that. Okay, don't make my mistake. I'll just pull a little bit more here. And ironically, this is also wet. So this is the piece I ripped by accident. I forgot to peel it off from the liftgate. So what I'm doing now is that I peeled off about an inch, and then I'm pulling so that I can still fold around this edge. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Obviously, I don't want to make a mistake on my installation video, but mistakes happen. At least you get to learn how to fix common mistakes. Now, because I lost a piece of my film due to my mistake, now it's a bit harder to do it here on this edge, so I will show you how to do this more properly when I go on the driver's side. Oh well, I will wait for this to dry some more, and then I'll do this part and finishing touches here. Next up, let's tackle the charge port. We'll score the edges again. I do this part by lifting up a little bit and pulling to eliminate that pressure. And here I see the edge is showing up, so again, lift up and pull to stretch a little bit. Some fingers here, but that's about that. All right. Now, I'll use the yellow edge tool. There is a plastic trim on the inside where I want to tuck in the PPF. I'll fold here at the edge. Alright, after the charge port, next up is the bumper. So I'll start here. Made a small crease here, so I picked it up, and a little bit of heat. I maybe need to do this with a squeegee. Yep, there you go. Here you want to squeegee that part first, and then tuck in, and then we'll use the heat gun to warm it up. This part here is pretty easy. Just running my finger here to smooth things out. This part seems to be done. I made a tiny crease here, so I'll just open it back up and reposition. All right, this part is done as well. Here I want to open it a little bit so that I can squeegee on this surface over here. And as you can see, I'm just slowly moving from one end to the other. Now let's tackle this. This is a bit trickier. So first I will want to open it a little, and then I will squeegee this side first, getting a small crease. Let me see, we can do it differently then. If you're getting a crease like I am, let's open it again like this, and we'll use a little bit of heat. And as soon as I clear this edge here where it wants to crease, I will start applying only one side at a time. This I designed with this cutout here because I thought it was very difficult to install otherwise. So there is this tiny overlap. If you have a strong preference of not having it, just shoot us an email and we can make you a custom cut without this. But it would be more difficult to install, but it would be more seamless because here I ended up with a tiny bit of bump and this small overlap. Now if I want to make it better, I can try, certainly I can try to open it again. Well, now I don't have the bump anymore, but I do have the overlap. And if I wanted to make this even better, I can open again, trim a little bit, and start removing until that overlap is also gone. But then I risk making the paint exposed. Again, if you have a preference that we do your wrap without this, that's perfectly okay. If most people ask for this, I suppose we'll default to that. But for now, I think this is easier to install, and in all fairness, barely noticeable. In the size of the car, this is barely noticeable. All right, now let's finish this edge. So the first thing I want to do is to open this up a little and finish the front fender's edge. For that, I'll need to heat it. And again, using that edge tool to tuck it in nicely without disassembling any panels. And I prefer to do the full length first before I start folding this one. I think it makes it a little bit easier. There you go. Now, if you are making a gap somewhere, like I am making a tiny gap here, you can just pull a little to fill that gap. There you go. And there you go. The bumper is also done. Let me show you. Now that the passenger side is done, I will continue here with the mirror, but before I do the mirror, I want to show you how to tuck in the PPF here behind that mirror. And the reason I want to do this first is because once I start spraying here, I have to wait all over again for this to dry up. And I'll also handle this. I see it's lifting up a little bit here. We'll just hit it with a heat gun and that will be enough, I think. So for this part, first make sure that the pieces meet together. If they don't, if you have a little bit of a gap, you can get the longer piece. I'll use this tool and pull a little bit. Right now I'll just peel it off a little, just so that I can work with the shorter piece here. This is tricky because your access is difficult around that mirror. So I'll use this tool that gives me the proper angle to just tuck it in. Now let's tuck in here under the weather strip, and then I'll grab this piece, I'll pull a little bit. I prefer that they overlap just a little, and I will align at the bottom, not at the top. So we'll align the bottom here, and then we'll just tuck in the top. Might take a few tries to get it just right. Let's see if I use tweezers, if I can. Oh yeah, okay. Tweezers make this a lot easier. So if you have tweezers, grab those. There you go. And that's it. Now I'll fix this with a heat gun. There we go. Make sure that everything else here looks fine. Tuck in if you have to. And next up, I think I'm gonna install this. Okay, that looks good. So we'll spray, clean. Now I'll actually spray a little bit of clean water here, because I would want some tuck. I will align here initially, this edge, and just try to get it to stick a little bit, and it will lift up a little bit. We'll be stretching in a minute. All right, so what I'm trying to achieve, and that might be difficult, so in all fairness, you might have an overlap here, just saying that, you know, trying to manage expectations. But if you align just at the line, let's give it some more tack. If you align right at the edge here, it would look very good. It's still moving around and I need it to not, so more water. And I keep rechecking that this is somewhat aligned. Again, this will be going up. Once it dries up, we'll have to pull a little bit to take away the pressure, and then it will go back down. For now, this piece, I'll just do the initial positioning, and we'll do the final installation once it's dry, because right now it will be very difficult. Still moving though, so more water. Maybe I'll just do like this. So I think I'll leave it at that for now. Again, this is a little bit different installation than the rest of the PPF because of its curves. And once it dries up, I will stretch here to eliminate some of that pressure. I'll have to reopen here. We'll have to take care of bubbles and such, which is not very difficult, but I'll show you when this is dry. For now, what you're aiming for is to have these lines align without overlapping, so that it looks really nice and smooth. And this can either reach to the end or just leave a little bit of a gap here, just a little bit, because we'll do a little bit of a stretch, which will fill that gap. We'll also be stretching here. All right, let's move on. Now, because I messed this up on the passenger side when I opened my lift gate, I forgot to unstick this part from it and it tore off, so I had to improvise. I promised to show you how I do it on the driver's side, so let me do that now. So I'll use the squeegee to tuck this under, and maybe the yellow edge too. And then there is a rubber trim here. Just lift up a little bit and you can fold around that edge. It's really as simple as that, not much to it. I'll use a little bit of heat gun because when I was stretching previously, it seems I pulled a little bit more, so the pressure relief cut is not exactly where I need it to be. There you go. Now let's see if that is dry enough to finalize. Obviously I don't want to do the same mistake again, so I'll peel off a little so that I can open my lift gate. Make sure that the other side is also peeled off. All right, and now we need to take care of this pressure. I'll peel back a little and I'll use the plastic squeegee for this and just slowly push everything out. You can also pull a little to remove some of that pressure if needed. And I'll first fold this edge and then I'll do this one. Again, there is that rubber trim over there, so just lift it up. Let me move the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So here is that rubber trim that I told you about. And how much this folds around really depends on how you position this, how much you stretched. So there will be variations to this. Now, I ended up with a lot of wrinkles from that pressure. I can tackle them in a little bit, but I'll show you the principle of removing them. So one way is to cut them off, basically make pressure relief cuts. If you're wondering why we didn't do that, the reason is that, again, there will be many variations of how this will work out based on how much you stretched and how you position the film. The other approach is to use a tool like this and lift up the wrinkle, hit it with a heat gun, and then with the squeegee push, and the wrinkle is gone. And if you do that for each one of them, that would be very hard to show on a video because I really need to be up close. You won't be seeing anything, you just see my head. So I will not show that on video, but this is the principle to fix those. And now, last but not least, let's fold this. I'm again using the plastic squeegee and then the edge tool. And here at the end, I'll use a heat gun and fold around. Then there will be some wrinkles inside, which I'll push down, and if they persist, again, hit them with the heat gun and push down. Now this is not fully dry yet, which makes it a bit trickier. So if you wait a little bit more, it will be a little bit easier. You have less of these wrinkles that don't stick. Although the heat gun did a pretty good job. All right, time for the 3 pieces of the liftgate. I've already debadged mine. The same principle as I showed you: heat gun, debadging tool, and then scrape it and use glue gun. Now I'll clean it and I'll begin installation. One important note about this is that you want to start on the top, then the middle, then the bottom, because the water, due to gravity, will go down, and if we start on the bottom, we'll only be adding water to that piece that we don't want there. So a word about positioning this one. This one, the top piece is the one that has these notches. These notches go in there, you see where, but I'll align the corner and then I'll fold here on top, and I want to align it. Notice that there is like a weather strip here, a tiny weather strip. I want to align it so that it reaches the end of that weather strip without going under. If you want, you can go under, there is enough material. But I found it to be a little bit more challenging to lift that weather strip up. So I personally prefer to not go under. So I'll do initial positioning now. I'll use a little bit of clean water here to get tack. But basically this is, I would say, the most important part of positioning this piece. Just find that tiny rubber strip here and fold the PPF and see how it will lay down. Now I'll try to get a little bit more tack here. Make sure to get that water here. And then the same on the other side. Now I'll spray the bottom edge with clean water so that it's easier to make it stick once it cures. And now we'll just let it dry mostly. Now for this piece, notice it's easy to switch it upside down by accident. So look at this part, there is like almost a 90-degree cut. This is the bottom part. So the way you want to align it is by the second from top to bottom, second pressure relief cut. It should match this visible edge over here, and it should go a little bit beyond it so that we don't see the edge once we fold it. Now let's get some clean water here. And for the time being, don't worry about that pressure. I will show you how to handle this once we are ready to fold. The other thing to know about this piece is that you want to tuck it in here. So it needs to go a little bit in there. Not too much, a few millimeters. I'm getting some water here that will escape. Now, for the purpose of faster and better drying, once that I've squeeged this and I've aligned it and everything, I'll actually open the top to let it dry. Like this. Have in mind that this piece really wants to accumulate water here. Monitor it. If you do end up with water, you can always remove it with a needle. Alright, before I start with the bottom part, I will pop the lift gate open, make sure that the PPF is not sticking on either side so that it doesn't rip. And this would actually also help with drying. Let's clean this one more time. Now here we'll align by the pressure relief cuts. I'll start with this one on the top right, and I'll make sure that the edge is not visible. I may want to get a little bit of water. So basically it's as simple as that. If you want the PPF to stay and stop moving in a certain place, spray clean water. If you want it to move, spray soapy water. Have in mind though that once you spray clean water, you increase the risk of trapped air or water, because it might stick too much and you might not be able to get water out. In that case, you just open, respray, redo. Now here because we have these curves, we need to stretch about half an inch. Super easy stretch. All right, that's it. Now we just wait. Next up, I'll see if I can finish that mirror. This is what it looks like when it dried up. So now I'll just tackle it one side at a time. First, I'll need to peel off though, so that all that pressure is handled. All right, then I'll stretch here and I'll try to align it to the bottom piece. Now this is arguably tricky. Again, we will provide you multiple of these, and also we'll provide you larger cutouts for the mirror wrap tool if you decide to go that route. But in all honesty, I've tried that multiple times and I don't know, I wasn't a huge fan of the results. One way to approach it is to use a hybrid model, which is do the bottom piece that we provide and then get knifeless tape applied on the edge and then use the mirror wrap tool for the top part. Okay, that final pressure I'll handle in a little bit with a heat gun. Let me just get the bulk of it done. I do have a tiny bit of overlap here. It can be trimmed, but it's tricky and dangerous to scratch your clear coat. Again, you can get a knifeless tape if you want more perfect results with the mirror. There is a tiny microscopic gap that I made at the initial positioning here, which most of it I fixed. Have in mind, because we're literally doing PPF dry right now, you will probably end up with some bubbles. So we'll use that needle after all to take care of those as well. Now, because there is quite a bit of stretching, if you end up with excess sticking out of here, you can try tucking it in like this. It's pretty easy actually. Alternatively, if you want, you can trim it. But again, if you're trimming over painted surfaces, please be very careful. Use a very sharp blade, like brand new blade, so that you don't have to apply much pressure. Like for instance here, it seems that it's sticking too much, so I will trim that part. Now for the final part here, I think I'll need a heat gun, so I'll just go with it. I got a little bit too much excess here, which I'll trim. Again, this would vary from one installation to another due to the nature of stretching the film. And I also got a little bit of too much overlap here, so I'll trim that just to reduce the overlap. So I'm essentially cutting over 2 layers of PPF. This greatly reduces the risk of scratching the paint, because I would have to go through 2 layers of PPF. Finally, if you have too much pressure here and it's lifting up, as long as it's PPF on top of PPF, you can lace a tiny bit of super glue to make this stick. Right now I'll just let it dry some more and see if it will sticking after that. If not, just tiny bit of super glue. It would be PPF over PPF, so it's perfectly safe. Now let's take care of those bubbles. Yeah, and this is how you do the mirrors. Just for the sports of it, I will try to reduce these overlaps here by trimming. So first I would need to score the edge really well, and then what I'll try to do is to trim from top so that I don't touch the paint, and instead I only touch against the other PPF. Now this introduces the risk that you actually create a gap, but again, we give you multiple of these, so you can make an error and start over. And if you run out and want more, just reach out. We can help you with any replacement pieces. Well, I think it's a little bit better, but again, I don't know if I would recommend you do that. I mean, maybe practice some on leftover pieces to get a feel for how to trim PPF. It's not difficult, it's just something you should probably first experience, not on the paint. Alright folks, I took another break and I think I should be ready to finish the tailgate now. So the first thing you want to do, it will probably look like this. The first thing you want to do is to pick this up and open it like this. And the reason is that I want to remove all that air from here. And I want to really push it all the way in. Then I'll make it conform to this edge. And if you're overlapping the weather strip, just use the edge tool to lift it up and push the film under it. I have a small bubble here. Alright, before I can fold this edge, I'll make sure it's not sticking to the neighboring panel. And because the lift gate would open from basically the top two panels would open, I would make sure that the middle panel also doesn't stick on both sides. Alright, now that it's open, we can do the edge folding. Now the film might be sticking to the light bar, just peel off so that you can push it in. And then we'll simply fold around. Now for this top edge, warm it up and pull a little bit just to conform to the shape here and fold around. Alright, now I will continue throughout the entire length of the film. Let's score this bottom edge, and wherever I see bubbles on the edge, I'll just peel off a little bit and rescore. Of course you can fix them with the needle as well, but alright, before I finish the top panel on the other side, I will actually do this side of the middle panel. Let me show you how this is done. If you remember during the installation I told you leave this open. If you forgot to do this, just open it now. And I'll hold it here. Make sure that the edges are scored. Hold on, let me fix that little part here. Alright, so open this up about this much and heat it. Then use the plastic squeegee to squeegee on this edge over here. Then let's score these edges, and again with a heat gun. And if you're seeing wrinkles in here, just heat them up and squeegee. And finally, let's do the bottom part, which should be called the tailgate. So score your edge and just fold. The upper edge is super easy. Then for the sides, you would need to crack it open. And again, just fold. And then I'll use the squeegee to tuck it in. And if it's too too long in places, it depends on how you positioned it, you can tuck it under this plastic trim. And then the bottom edge is a bit trickier to access. You can open that and you can open this part so you have access to the bottom. Again, if it's too long, you can tuck in, or if you don't want to bother tucking in, you can just slice it off. Alright, I think the bottom piece is done. Remember, this part you need to pick up. Last but not least, I will install the abstract ocean replacement emblems. These are black ones, black and yellow actually. They're really easy to install. Basically peel off the back side of this. This is what it looks like. And now centering. If you're very OCD, you may want to measure. I will actually just go visually. I mean, worst case scenario, you get another set of these and we'll send you a replacement disc and you can redo it. But I think this looks pretty centered to me. So pretty much the last piece that is left is the door handles. I suppose some people would prefer to wrap them, others would prefer not to. But if you want to wrap them, we provide you with a lot of door handle pieces. Now you can do a wet install because, you know, this is paint protection film, in which case you have to center it really well, like spray, center, squeegee out, and wait to fold the edges. Because this is a very small piece though, I'll actually try to do a dry install. I think it's easier. It's important to close the door handles, so lock your Rivian. And let's try to center this. Okay. And now, just do like that, so that you don't let any air remain trapped in there. And again, we'll provide you a bunch of those, so you definitely have enough for trial and error. For the record, there is no problem on the front door handles on the Gen 2 that have little dips here. It's really not a problem. Now, when you get to the end, you'll need your heat gun. Now on the other side, it's a little bit easier because you can crack the door handle open and just do this by hand. And it wraps around a little bit just to give you a complete look. And there you go, this is the dry apply method. So guys, here it is. It took me 2 days to fully wrap it, and then on the third day I went through my installation and fixed whatever was lifting up, needed to be put back or glued. So, you know, just to manage expectations, that's something that will probably happen immediately after the installation. That's why shops keep the cars for a few more days so that they can do these fixes. But I hope I've showed you everything that you need to know on how to fix things. If not, please shoot us an email. We'll be happy to help. But this is what it looks like. This originally midnight black Rivian R1S is now wrapped in matte Magic Flame Dark Blue. Thank you for watching.